All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackberry News, where everything is connected. How are you all doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. And welcome. All right. We're live on Rockfin, YouTube, Rumble, and on X. And let's get into it. Happy Earth Day. People are still celebrating Earth Day. I don't know if you don't know how. It's a nice thing to celebrate. I won't begrudge anybody the celebration. But we're in trouble. Big trouble right here in River City. And, I don't know how else to put it. And I don't know that we're really going to take it seriously anytime soon because nobody thinks it's a real problem. And, good luck trying to convince people otherwise. But eventually it'll become apparent. If it hasn't, I don't know. It always tickles me to see people lose their minds when there's, reports about plummeting birth rates due to the poisoning of the environment, and yet climate change is not happening. It's not a thing. Humans aren't impacting the earth. Microplastics are everywhere. Endocrine disruptors are everywhere. Dioxins are everywhere. Environmental poisons are everywhere, impacting human life, fertility, and the future of the species. And yet somehow, no, climate change isn't a thing. What are you, crazy? Okay. I don't know how you can. Certainly, Bitcoin will not save the earth. I don't know how you can decouple the two. We were reading a Ministry for the Future last year, right? And didn't they have some kind of a? It wasn't a Bitcoin, but it was they had a climate coin. Some kind of it wasn't necessarily a carbon credit. Was it a carbon coin? I don't know. Something like that. It was something with a long return on investment, like a treasury, but longer. That somehow was an economic lever to help heal the planet. Who knows? But certainly, things are awry and amiss. By the way, as a matter of housekeeping, I won't be here on Friday. I won't be here on Monday. So there's going to be a 4-day gap of no Black Bear news this weekend. I will be doing a show tomorrow and Thursday. So tune into the general usual places for that. The Dow is up 972. Yeah, things are up. Bitcoin's up, etc. It was a gain on the day. Yeah, so I'll be I will be out of town and incommunicado this weekend, but I will be back on Tuesday. Ooh, okay. Let's look at this. All right. Well, we'll let's get into this. Let's see. Osama just sent me this link. A nuclear bunker buster bomb against Iran would initiate World War III. I think so. On the drawing board. What's crazy is the date of this article is 2006. Yeah. Or the original. I think the original date was 2006, right? But this is a recent article. Let's see. Oh, the video is from 2006. Union of Concerned Scientists, in collaboration with the Pentagon, reveals the consequences of the use of nuclear Earth penetration bomb in an attack on Iran. Let's watch it. Can we watch it? Is this? Oh, am I? Is this an actual video? What's going on? I don't know. I really don't know what's happening. I feel like this is a picture. Where's the video? Oh, is this it?
The U.S. wants to develop a new type of nuclear weapon, a nuclear Earth penetrator or bunker buster. This nuclear bomb, intended to destroy underground targets, would be useless against many bunkers. At the same time, it would produce massive amounts of radioactive fallout and potentially kill millions of civilians. The nuclear bomb, dropped by an airplane, would only penetrate a few meters into the ground, too shallow to contain the nuclear blast or the large cloud of radioactive fallout. The nuclear radiation could spread more than 1,000 miles. If the United States used a single weapon with a 1 megaton yield against the Isfahan nuclear facility in Iran, for example, the deadly radioactive fallout would spread to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India. In this simulation, based on a model developed by the Pentagon, over 3 million people would be killed as a result of the attack, and 35 million people would be exposed to significant cancer-causing radiation. To destroy buried targets, the seismic shock wave produced by the bomb would need to reach the bunker. However, a 1 megaton nuclear bomb with 60 times the power of the Hiroshima weapon could only destroy bunkers within about 1,000 feet of the explosion. Very deep bunkers can be built with modern tunneling equipment, and the United States is unlikely to know the exact location of bunkers, even if it knows the entry points. A nuclear weapon would also be ineffective at sterilizing underground stockpiles of chemical or biological weapons unless it detonates very close to the target. This is because the heat and radiation from a nuclear explosion do not travel far underground. If the weapon doesn't destroy the stockpile, the explosion is likely to spread active chemical or biological agents into the environment, in addition to the radiation. A more sensible way to deal with the military challenge posed by underground bunkers is to use precision conventional weapons to attack all entrances and exits to the bunker. This would keep chemical or biological stocks sealed underground and prevent enemy personnel from entering or exiting the facility.
Okay. All right, oh no, this is not the one I wanted. This is not the droid I'm looking for. This is where we're at 430 parts per million. We are not at peak at the usual time of peak readings at Mauna Loa, but right now the latest reading is topping all previous readings of 430.25 parts per million. Oh, sorry. Can't see that. What's up, old as dirt? Thank you. Let's keep going. So we don't seem to be getting the message all these Earth days. And what we need to do is go back and look at and rewatch Planet of the Humans. Maybe we should do a watch along tomorrow. Should we do a watch along of Planet of the Humans tomorrow? What do you think? Is it still on YouTube? Let's see. Planet of the Humans. It's here. All right. I guess we could have watched it today, but we're not going to watch it today. Let's do it tomorrow. It's an hour and 40 minutes. I'm down. What y'all think? Okay, let's look at this. I'm a short case says, Kevin, you are on YouTube. Yes, I am. Yes. Just wondering if Planet of the Humans was still up. It was down for a second. Remember, they took it down. Well, they have the whole movie here. We can watch it whenever we want to. Sure. Okay. Let's look at this from Collapse 2050. 2030 Doomsday Scenario, the Great Nuclear Collapse, a timeline of the end game for human civilization. Humanity is constructed a doomsday dead man switch that threatens civilization. Climate destruction will make it increasingly difficult to avoid. The looming global nuclear catastrophe we've created. Here's how our future might unravel. Late 2020s climate red alert and infrastructure strain. By the late 2020s, Earth's climate is an unprecedented turmoil in. Global average temperatures are consistently 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels. Already done, did that. Each year brings record-breaking heat waves, freak floods, and droughts that batter infrastructure. Coastal cities flood more frequently. Roads buckle in extreme heat. Power grids strain under surging demand for cooling. This cascade of climate disasters sets the stage for a systemic collapse. As societies grapple with runaway warming, the resilience of critical infrastructure, power, water, and transit erodes. Energy systems enter a crisis even before 2030. Nuclear power, which in 2025 still provided about 9% of the world's electricity from 440 reactors, becomes increasingly unreliable. Many nuclear plants struggle with climate stresses. Cooling water sources heat up in summer, forcing reactors to reduce output or shut down to avoid unsafe temperatures. For example, a 2028 European heat wave pushes river and sea temperatures above 25 C, triggering emergency shutdowns at multiple reactors that cannot be cooled effectively. At the same time, stronger storms and floods threaten reactor safety. Dozens of reactors worldwide are unprepared for extreme flooding, meaning a dam failure or storm surge could lead to a Fukushima-scale accident. Worrisome reports emerge of power plants in floodplains and coasts where defenses are overtopped by rising seas and torrential rains. By 2029, global carbon output remains high. Natural feedback loops are kicking in. In the Arctic, permafrost thaws and releases methane, creating a vicious warming cycle where initial warming triggers more emissions, leading to even more warming. Scientists caution that a tipping point is near, beyond which climate change becomes self-perpetuating, a true runaway scenario. Society approaches 2030 in a precarious state, aware of looming catastrophe yet unprepared for its speed. The stage is set for the coming collapse, with power grids and nuclear facilities, the backbone of the industrial world, already under severe strain. Early 2030s, blackouts in the first reactor crisis. 2030 marks the breaking point. A confluence of climate catastrophes collapses power grids across multiple continents. A severe global heat wave in the summer of 2030 brings record electricity demand, while many power plants, nuclear and coal alike, are derated or offline due to overheating coolant water. Aren't they planning on using nuclear power to cool all these new gargantuan AI data centers? I think they are. Powerful Category 5 storms strike in succession. One hurricane inundates the U.S. eastern seaboard, while an unprecedented typhoon swamps Southeast Asia. These disasters knock out transmission lines and flood key substations, leading to prolonged blackouts in dozens of major cities. Emergency systems are overwhelmed, with communications down and transportation paralyzed. Manpower shortages become acute. Many operators and engineers cannot reach their stations. Nuclear power plants are among the first to feel the emergency. Grid failure triggers automatic reactor scrams, rapid shutdowns at plants from Florida to France. Control rods halt the fission reactors, but decay heat in reactor cores still needs cooling for days to prevent meltdown. Normally, backup diesel generators would power the cooling pumps, but the scale of the blackout means diesel resupply is uncertain, and some generators fail in flooded facilities. In a grim reflection of 2011's Fukushima disaster, several coastal reactors lose all power as storm surges drown their backup generators. Within hours to days, the first meltdowns occur. In 2031, a reactor in South Asia becomes a flashpoint. Its cooling pumps falter after the grid collapse, leading to the core to overheat. The reactor heart melts through containment in a matter of days, releasing a plume of radioactive steam and debris. Nearby, an even greater danger unfolds. The plant's spent fuel pool, packed with years of highly radioactive spent rods, boils dry without cooling. Exposed to air, the zirconium cladding of the fuel ignites, triggering a fire that belches long-lived radioisotopes directly into the atmosphere. This nightmare scenario, once narrowly avoided at Fukushima by heroic ad hoc measures, now plays out in full. Local and regional consequences are immediate and harrowing. Authorities already struggling with disaster response hastily order mass evacuations around stricken plants. In the South Asia incident, a radius of 30 kilometers is declared a no-go zone. As radiation levels spike, 1 million people are displaced in this region alone, fleeing what swiftly becomes a nuclear dead zone. Many receive significant radiation doses during the chaotic evacuation, trapped by traffic jams under drifting fallout. Comparisons are made to Chernobyl's 1986 evacuation. There, 130,000 people were permanently resettled, and a 1,000 square mile exclusion zone established, but the 2031 event affects an even larger population in a densely settled area. Nearby countries track the radioactive cloud as it crosses borders. Within days, radioactive iodine and cesium are detected in cities hundreds of kilometers downwind. Governments distribute iodine tablets to help block uptake of radioactive iodine in thyroid glands, recalling measures taken after Chernobyl and Fukushima. Farmers in downwind regions watch in despair as cesium-137 contaminates soil and crops, knowing from past incidents that those lands may be unsafe for farming for decades. After Chernobyl, for instance, radiocesium lingering in soils kept pastures in parts of Europe under restriction for over 20 years. Globally, these first reactor crises send a chilling signal. Airborne radiation from the fires and vented steam reaches the upper atmosphere and begins circling the planet. Within weeks, a trace amount of cesium-137 and strontium-90 are found in faraway monitoring stations. While the initial fallout poses the greatest danger locally, the global dispersion of radionuclides raises alarms. Public health experts warn that even low-dose fallout on crops could, when multiplied across the world, elevate cancer risks and contaminate food supplies. International markets are rocked as nations ban produce and grain imports from entire regions. The economic shock compounds the physical destruction already destabilized by climate disasters. The global supply chain further fractures under fear of radiation in goods. Perhaps most critical for what comes next, these early accidents erode the capacity to respond to future crises. Emergency workers who heroically battled the first meltdowns, hosing overheating reactors, attempting improvised cooling, have suffered radiation exposure or exhaustion. Large swaths of power grid remain offline, making rolling blackouts the new normal, even in areas not directly hit by climate events. This energy shortage slows recovery efforts and undermines the cooling and monitoring systems at other nuclear sites. By 2032, the world faces a stark reality. Roughly 10% of nuclear reactors worldwide are in some stage of crisis, either already melted down or scrammed and struggling to keep their hot cores and spent fuel safe. What was once unthinkable now seems inevitable. Mid-2030s, cascading meltdowns across the world in 2035. As 2035 approaches, the situation spirals into a cascade of nuclear calamities. Ongoing climate chaos keeps hammering human systems. Year after year, megastorms, wildfires, and heat waves pummel regions before they can recover. The compounded infrastructure damage means many areas have only intermittent electricity and scarce supplies. In this environment, about half of the world's nuclear reactors are effectively left unattended or unserviceable. Some due to direct disaster impacts, others because manpower and resources have collapsed in the region. Governments in relatively stable areas attempt to initiate orderly shutdowns of reactors as a preventative measure, but even a shut reactor needs years of active cooling and oversight. In many cases, those best efforts falter. By 2033 to 35, a wave of reactor meltdowns unfolds on nearly every continent. The numbers are staggering. What started with a few isolated incidents in 2030 to 32 explode into dozens of sites in crisis. Oh, hold on one second. Older nuclear stations prove Especially vulnerable, lacking passive cooling features, they succumb quickly when grid power and backups fail. Newer reactors, touted as meltdown proof, also face unforeseen challenges. Coolant reservoir tanks run dry when maintenance crews vanish, or hydrogen explosions like those that blew apart Fukushima's reactor buildings occur due to unvented pressure. Spent fuel pool fires add to the nightmare at many sites. Analysts later estimate that these pool fires release even more radiation than the reactor core meltdowns in several cases. Since pools often contain decades of fuel assemblies, each collapsing plant creates its own radiation footprint. By the mid-2030s, a patchwork of radioactive exclusion zones scar the northern hemisphere. In Eurasia, multiple zones from Western Europe through Russia, South Asia, and East Asia dot the map where reactors have failed. Some of these zones begin to overlap, forming a virtually continuous swath of contaminated land in parts of Europe and Asia. Hold on one second. This long. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I don't have time today to do this whole thing. It's you guys get the idea. Let's see. Beyond human habitations, ecosystems suffer radiological damage layered on top of climate stress. Forests downwind of reactor accidents turn brown and silent as foliage and wildlife absorb heavy doses of radiation. In some intensely contaminated zones, an eerie calm prevails, reminiscent of how the core area around Chernobyl became an accidental wildlife refuge, but one where many organisms die young or show mutations. Initially, high radiation kills or stunts many plants and animals. Forests die and animal populations plummet. Over the later 2030s, some wildlife returns to abandoned zones. Benefiting from lack of humans, however, in areas of very high contamination, biodiversity remains lower and animals show signs of chronic radiation exposure. 2040s, toxic legacy settles in. 2050s and beyond, a transformed and radioactive world. Earth is fundamentally an altered planet. Human civilization has been gutted. What remains is a patchwork of survivor communities and a few stable enclaves attempting to rebuild amid the ruins. The climate is hotter, approaching 2.5 C. Man, this is very optimistic. (2.5C) only. Seas are higher and seasons are unreliable. On top of this, the planet's surface carries the wounds of the nuclear collapse. Even as some dangers gradually subside with time, others will persist for centuries. Yeah. Okay. Well, you can find this at collapse2050.com if you want to read the rest of it. It would take me the entire show to read that. And I want to talk about other things today while we still have time. But certainly a frightening scenario indeed. Speaking of collapse, it's funny because, I've talked here and there about the very real fear from the controllers of society that populations are going to collapse. So, I have some real doubts about the depopulation agenda. Sorry. Sorry if I do not concur with all of the alternative media sphere about the assumed depopulation agenda. Because what we see constantly is the sign. Well, right now, even with all the robots that they're planning on bringing out to work, like who's going to consume the stuff? I mean, you really, I know we've been talking here and there about a great reset, and we could very well be talking about a great reset, like a really big reset, a reset where economics doesn't work the way that it works now, and that would be, man, that would be a different world. And I don't really know what the end goal as far as that goes. I don't really know what the vision is for that. Although some refer to Agenda 2030 as in you'll be happy and own nothing. Not like we're frolicking in the forest and we're not consumers anymore. More like we're just slaves in inner city boxes who are let out a couple of times a day. Basically, we live in open air prison, with very little resources and very little limited ability to get those resources. And we live in a highly controlled society, right? Like a dystopian, technocratic, a panopticon, right? And that certainly could be what they have in store. But for right now, we live in an economy that relies on an ever-expanding consumer base, an ever-expanding fossil fuel supply in order to, and energy supply in order to grow that consumer base. And what's the operative word in the economy? Consume. Consumer. They are definitely relying on more people, on people continuing to keep the economy going by just basic consumption. That's how the economy. How the economy works right now, and until that changes, that's the predominant prevailing paradigm. Until that changes, this is the world we live in, and it's the world we're going to continue to live in. And they, for all intents and purposes, the goal is to expand that world. Until I see anything different, and until I see or can, really see the plan for another world really taking place, I don't know. I'm not totally convinced of it yet. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in it. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable of believing it. Doesn't mean I'm not capable of seeing it if it were real. I just think the depopulation agenda thing is not a thing. I mean, you have Elon Musk, every other day talking about how population collapse is a calamity for the human race and urging people to have babies. And now the Trump administration, hold on one second. The Trump administration is mulling a $5,000 incentive to have a baby. Like other countries, mirroring other countries, right? Is it South Korea that's doing something like this? Other countries are doing this as well, basically paying parents to have kids. The Trump administration has been mulling ways to get more Americans married and having kids, including a $5,000 baby bonus for every new mom after delivery, according to a report. What? White House officials have recently been brainstorming plans to tackle the declining birth and marriage rates and push more Americans toward the traditional family values of Trump and his allies. The sources noted that fertility issues will likely become a prominent piece of the agenda in order to achieve the baby boom that Trump is seeking. This, flies in the face of the idea that there is a depopulation agenda. Whatever. Maybe there is. Maybe there's multiple agendas. That's possible too. Maybe there's, populate for now, depopulate later. I don't know. But they know that a declining population, and hand in hand with that, declining fossil fuel use is a death knell for the economy. So they don't want that. They want new little, they want new eaters out there, new eaters and breeders. That's what they want. That's how we got rich in the past. That's how they think we're going to get rich in the future. I mean, and it goes along, with the idea that the Trump administration is really, trying to revive, an old playbook, past glory, a time when, growing populations and economies and fossil fuels and, I guess you could include, technological advances, made America and the world in general more wealthy. I don't know. I don't know where all this ends, honestly. There's not a lot of thinking going on. There's not a lot of long-term planning going on. Although this famed AI researcher launches a controversial startup to replace all human workers everywhere. How do you think that's going to go? Famed AI researcher launches controversial startup to replace all human workers everywhere. Every now and then a Silicon Valley startup launches with such an absurdly described mission that it's difficult to discern if the startup is for real or just satire. Such is the case with Mechanize, a startup whose founder and the nonprofit AI research organization he called Epoch is being skewered on X after he announced it. Complaints encompass both the startup's mission and the implication that it sullies the reputation of his well-respected research institute. Mechanize was launched on Thursday via a post on X by its founder, famed AI researcher Temeh Besaroglu. The startup's goal, Besaroglu wrote, is the full automation of all work and the full automation of the economy. Okay. Does that mean Mechanize is going to replace every human worker with an AI agent bot? Essentially, yes. The startup wants to provide the data, evaluations, and digital environments to make worker automation of any job possible. Besaroglu even calculated Mechanize's total addressable market by aggregating all the wages humans are currently paid. The market potential here is absurdly large. Workers in the U.S. are paid around $18 trillion per year in aggregate. For the entire world, the number is over 3 times greater, around $60 trillion per year. He did, however, clarify to TechCrunch that our immediate focus is indeed on white-collar work, rather than manual labor jobs that will require robotics. I don't know. I guess I don't know how people are going to consume all the things, or what are people going to be doing while robots are doing all this labor? How are they going to consume? Are they going to get UBI, or what's happening? Let's see. Creative says those robots use electricity and heat up more, which needs way more air conditioning to keep the robots cool. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that with the need of resources just for the AI data storage and data centers is going to be massive, right? And then you throw robots into the mix with that. And yeah, the resources necessary for this kind of venture are going to be enormous. I don't really know how that's sustainable, honestly, but because it's not. Speaking of that, here's Chinese farmers put their new humanoids to work on their crops. I guess this is what something will look like. Chinese farmers put their new humanoids to work on their crops. Fourth industrial revolution will make billions of humans redundant, referred to the WEF as useless eaters. Okay, yeah, but I don't know. All I see is the call for more babies. And not just in the US. You see it everywhere. You see people panicking. Oh, fertility rates are cratering. Populations are cratering. Whatever shall we do? This is terrible. This is a terrible development. People are panicking. And they use the word panic. I mean, you don't have to believe me. Just read the articles. If it doesn't fit your formed narrative that you're supposed to carry around with you as a card-carrying member of the alternative, whatever thinker crew, I don't know. How do you reconcile that? I just would like to know. I know it's a little wild because there's a guy right behind him, like, go this way, do it like this. Here's an article saying the return of an extinct wolf is not the answer to saving endangered species. Really? Tell me more. I don't think it's the answer either. I mean, we're really busy putting species, out of business, and somehow building a business to reanimate species it's kind of like trying to go to Mars when you can't really sustain life on it, right? You can't figure out a way to equitably and compassionately sustain life on Earth, but yet you want to go to Mars. There isn't a lot of logic in that. In fact, I would call it the opposite of logic. Madness. As the Trump administration slashes funding for health, energy, and climate research, One science the administration is promoting: de-extinction. The Trump administration is citing the case of the dire wolf as it moves to reduce federal protections under the Endangered Species Act. Case in point, on Wednesday, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA announced a proposed rule to rescind the definition of harm under the act, which for decades has included actions like harassing, pursuing, hunting, or killing endangered wildlife and plants, as well as habitat destruction. Wow. The status quo is focused on regulation more than innovation. It's time to fundamentally change how we think about species conservation, said Interior Secretary Doug Burgum in an April 7th post on X, formerly Twitter. The revival of the dire wolf heralds the advent of a thrilling new era of scientific wonder, showcasing how the concept of de-extinction anyways. So I think what you're counting on is the undead. Undeading, not de-extinctioning, but undeading animals that you kill, right? We're destroying the habitat. We're going to destroy the animal populations and insect populations. But don't worry, we're going to reanimate them later after they're dead. Come on, man. Do you have brains that work? Apparently not. Apparently these people have brains that don't work. Anyways. Bioethicists and conservationists are expressing unease with the kind of scientific research being pioneered by Colossal Biosciences, a Dallas-based company, on a mission to bring back extinct animals. Oh, if only it would go ever so wrong. You know? It would be the greatest irony that they really would bring, de-extinct something that would just absolutely upend civilization as we know it. I mean, it wouldn't be fun for humans, I'm sure, but ironic and maybe even a little humorous. For border security, dire wolves on the border. Anyways, it's just I don't know how much more of this I can read. It's just ridiculous. Let's see. What else we got? Yet another. Europe has recently got a bunch of extreme weather events, rain. Mexico now on the wheel. Coyotepec in the state of Mexico got hammered with some rain. Stop reading it. Commissioner Kate says. Yeah. It just seems ridiculous. I don't know how many times I can say ridiculous, but I'll say it again. Dire nights. I need to do like 3 shows a day on totally different subjects or areas of news because there's just so much to cover. Let's see. What's this? This is a pig farm in China. I think we've shown this before. This is the world's biggest pig farm. Imagine the horrors going on in there. Where is Coyotepec? Let's see if we can find out. State of Mexico. It is in the state of Mexico. Mexico. State of Mexico. Mexico. Yeah, pigs are not really imagining that they live in these amazing high-rise killing factories. That's not, I don't know, it's a little silly. Okay, we're going to assume that somehow people are trying to do things in the Trump administration. I think a lot of people have been very critical of what RFK has been doing. But apparently, no. Okay, sorry. Community note was not here the first time I looked at this. Apparently, RFK is speaking at 4 p.m. today to discuss the phased rollout of the removal of synthetic dyes from the nation's food supply. Okay. Well, I hope that is something that happens and comes through. We'll see. Guys, if you like the show, if you want to see the show continue to come to you for free Monday through Friday, or come to you at all in any way, shape, or form, this show actually always comes to you for free, and you want to support the show, there's lots of ways to do it in the description box of any channel that you're watching on X. There's a link tree in my profile. All the usual suspects are there: Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, Patreon, Substack. Those are the ways that you can support the show. Many of you sorry for the interruption, albeit brief. It happens. The Rumble studio just blanks out. It's really been weird lately. Usually Rumble just keeps me signed in. But lately they've been forcing me to sign in every day. So they log me out. I don't know. Maybe it's user error, so I'll just go with that. We'll go with user error right now. But I've just been like, all right, Rumble. Okay. You trying to hate on me? Let's see. I mean, it seems like, he's trying. Pete Hegseth apparently was one of the people that talked Trump out of bombing Iran. Which, a lot of criticism, going Pete Hegseth's way, and probably earned. Like him or hate him, he was one of the people advising caution. or some kind of reticence to bomb Iran, and you got to be thankful that cooler heads are prevailing, whether you like those cooler heads or not. Tulsi Gabbard was one of those people, but I think that what's happened is the people they're trying to basically demonize and get rid of or shift the blame to other people around them, firing staff members and some people getting the axe for leaking information around this anti-bomb Iran stance. Just days after the media reported that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth discouraged President Trump from attacking Iran, multiple media stories have dropped claiming incompetence and worse on his part. Which lets you know that the media is totally for bombing Iran. And that's all of the media. Word, go. Don't forget to listen to Kameshwari Kate's Earth Day playlist. It has one of my songs on it. Well, this is Ron Paul. We'll listen to a little bit of Ron Paul talk about what's going on surrounding what's being treated as something of a mutinous position to not want to bomb Iran. What's wrong with these people? Are they incompetent? What, they don't want to just go full-scale World War III? Meanwhile, 3 top aides known for a more realist approach to foreign policy have been sacked on dubious grounds. Is Hegseth about to learn what happens when you cross the neocons? Crossing the neocon. It's like crossing the Rubicon, except different. We'll listen to a little bit. Hello. Where is it? Bring us sound.
Rate of interest. Our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you?
Good.
We got some rain?
Had a nice weekend.
Good.
And now we're getting rained on and water the plants.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly what we need.
So, but today I want to check and find out who's watering the plants of dirty politics. There's still people around.
Yeah.
There hasn't really been the type of revolution that we would wish we'd have someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll talk a little bit about it. I've been fascinated with a little event going on the last couple weeks, maybe even longer than that, but really it was hot and heavy this week. Is the great debate, I think, is between Trump and Powell.
Yeah.
And, you have Powell, who's a diplomat, he's dignified, and he's a scholar, and he speaks softly, and yet he doesn't like anybody intruding on what he's doing. So he has his mind about what interest rates should be. But I guess what? Trump has his own opinion. Trump, here he is. He's in business, and he may well know and understand the significance of the interest rates and the Federal Reserve. Not that it has driven them into our corner, but I'll tell you what, it's those two people I've mentioned are definitely at odds over what to do. And we shouldn't be surprised about this, because it's a debate, because it's based on a false assumption. The debate's going to go on forever. So when you have interventionism and decide the market isn't to be used to decide what the most important price is in the economy, and that is the price of loaning out money pretty soon. But they might just, once again, what Roosevelt do. He didn't want that to happen. He knew what was coming.
Sorry, I thought they were going to get right to it here, but not so much. Give me 1 second here. What the heck is going on? Well, it looks like they're talking about the White House is beginning a new search for a Secretary of Defense. Who knows? But there's all kinds of scuttlebutt around Hexeth and leaks and all kinds of stuff. But it looks like this is a story that's meant to take Hexeth out, because really what the people behind the scenes are upset about is the fact that he recommended not bombing Iran. And I guess that is something that you're not supposed to be doing. From Michael Tracy, Hegseth's explanation for what's going on at the Department of Defense, namely him purging his own top circle of advisors, is all over the place. But he concludes by boasting about his advocacy for $1 trillion defense budget. I guess we're supposed to believe this enrages the deep state. Nobody can say Hegseth.
And the president has said we'll have our first $1 trillion budget. Because my kids, my 14-year-old, if he joins, he's going to have a great military. He's going to have peace through strength because of the historic investments of this president. So, no, I haven't blinked, and I won't blink because this job is too big and too important for the American people, and I'm grateful for every opportunity the president has given me.
And I was grateful to see the Hegseth Army on the Easter egg roll yesterday in the backdrop. They are ready to go.
That's why I've fought for the budget that the Defense Department requires.
Okay.
And the president.
What is this? Denver or hemp car. Jim Lee tried getting into a position with RFK Jr. but was turned down. Jim Lee. Which Jim Lee? Right, there's only one. There's only one Jim Lee. Anyways, I don't know. It's a weird story. I'm not hearing what's going to happen at Tulsi. Sorry. Too much going on here. Oh, that Jim Lee. I got you. Okay. There's a lot of Jim Lees. That Jim Lee. Climate viewer. Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's so much more to talk about. Well, maybe we'll try and talk about it tomorrow or the next day. Guys, I got to end the show now. I think I've run out of time to talk about the various and the sundry. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Anybody watching on X, everybody watching on Rokefin. Rumble, YouTube's Rockfin X. I've already named all of those. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you. And go, if you're going to celebrate Earth Day today, do something real. Definitely don't make it about buying something. Go roll in the grass. Go get away from cell towers. I don't know. Something like that. Plant some vegetables. Jim Lee. He's an interesting guy. I don't know. I found some of the things that he says kind of interesting. He's also can be a bit kooky, but I used to talk about his work back in the day. Hold on one second. All right. Don't think I have anybody to thank as of yet, but I will see you all. Hemcar says, plant some fruit trees. Word. I will see you all tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. And y'all enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, peace. Mm-hmm.